Class is in memory of Jared Orchen, and today we'll continue part 2 of the stories, the event that led to the destruction of the Second Temple. We were telling a story about, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai sneaking out from the city and going to meet Vespasius, the officer who was leading the siege against Jerusalem. He came to him and he greeted him as a king. Then he told him, if I'm a king, first of all, he told him I'm not a king, because the king is in Rome. And when you say, call me the king instead of the king, you're actually rebelling against the king. If I call in front of the king somebody else the king, I rebel against the king. Number one. Number two, he told them, if I'm the king, where were you until now? And he told them, Rabbi Yochanan answered them, and he told them like this. He says, the reason you are the king, why I say that you are the king, because God said, it's written in the Torah, that Jerusalem will fall only in the hand of a king. Jerusalem cannot fall in the hand of a schlepper. It must be in the hand of a very powerful man, maybe the king of the strongest man in the world. That he says, number one, must be that if you are successful, must be that you are the king. And that's why you're asking me why I didn't come until now, is because the zealots in Jerusalem was at two sides. Was one side of people who said, let's make peace with the Romans. The other side of the people, another group who said, absolutely not, let's fight them to the last drop of blood. And the guys who were the zealots, who didn't want to make peace, they controlled the gates over Jerusalem, and they said they didn't allow anybody to leave. And Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai had to be sneaked out in a coffin, in a bed, as a dead person. Only this is the way he went out of Jerusalem. So that's why I didn't come. That's where we stopped last week. We are in the 4th page. It's. I hope you are all with me on the same page. In the left column, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai now responded to Vespasius' second accusation. It's in the middle. It's almost in the 2 paragraphs for the bottom.
If I am a king, why did you not come to me?
Right here.
And to that which you asked me, if I am a king, why did you not come to me until today? The answer is
Biryone is the zealots.
Among us, do not let us leave the city. Vespasian said to Rabbi Yochanan.
One second, we'll to count 3 pages, turn them over, and by the 4th page, we are there. The 4th page. Is everybody on the same page? Are we all on the same page? That's a question.
Usually put the little back.
It's an old question.
There was a keg of honey, and a dangerous snake was pursuing it. Would one not break the keg because the snake, so that the snake will go away?
What he told him, likewise, go ahead.
Likewise, you should have destroyed the walls of your city so that the Bayani could be driven out.
He told them, Vespasius, when he told them, when Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said, the zealots didn't allow me to leave the city, he says, what you have to do is to break the walls and drive the Biryonim out of the city, drive out the zealot out of the city. If you have a keg and a snake in top of it, he gave him the example, you break the keg, basically break the city. Rabbi Yochanan did not answer. Go ahead. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was silent. He didn't answer. Now, there is a little argument in the Talmud, a little discussion on this alone, that Rabbi Yochanan, the leader of the Jewish people, didn't answer Vespasius on his accusation. Why he didn't break the walls? Was it a good thing or a bad thing? Then let's read it. Go ahead.
The Gemara comments on Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai's silence. Rav Yosef, or some say Rabbi Akiva, recited the following verse about Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai. He, God, turns wise men backwards and makes their thinking foolish.
There is a verse in the Bible that says that God sometimes turns the smart people, the heads upside down. He said this line, and Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai at that moment, that he should have to give him a good answer. What is the answer according to Rabbi Akiva?
Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai should have answered, Vespasian, if a dangerous snake were in pursuit of a keg of honey, we would take a tongs, grab hold of the snake, and kill it, and we would leave the keg intact. To Vespasian's argument that they should have destroyed the city walls so that the Barioni could be expelled, would one not break the keg? Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai should have responded that they were waiting for an opportunity to drive out the Barioni without having to destroy the city.
Basically, he said that Rabbi Yochanan had to answer him, what do you mean to break the keg? What do you mean break the city? We were waiting for an opportunity, like I had now, to snake out or to get rid of the zealots. But you don't break the walls, you don't destroy everything. That's Rabbi Akiva said in hindsight 2020, what Rabbi Yochanan had to answer him on the spot. But that's as easy to say when you're sitting later and discussing what should we have to say. But when you're there, it's a whole different story, as we all know. Okay, the narrative is resumed. Mark.
The narrative is resumed. In the meantime, a messenger for Vespasian arrived from Rome. He said to Vespasian, Arise, for Caesar has died, and the dignitaries of Rome said that they have decided to appoint you as the leader.
As he talks to him, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, and he argues with him, yeah king, not king, you're the king, a messenger from Rome arrives and tells him the king died, and the whole there in Rome decided that you're the king, appointed you as a king. That was a good job done, huh? You have to know how to do it. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was not just relying on verses, he had a little more insights than regular human beings. What happened to Vespasian at that moment?
He was wearing only one of his shoes at the time. He attempted to put on the other shoe, but it wouldn't go on. He then attempted to take the other shoe off, but it wouldn't come off.
You need to understand the shoes were at that time not as flexible as we have today. Shoes are made, and he couldn't put on the other shoe. He didn't understand what's going on here. So
he asked Rabbi Yochai ben Zakkai, what is this?
He asked him, my high, what's going on? He saw he's standing in front of him, a very smart man that knows things that no human beings cannot know. He says, maybe you can help me with this thing too.
He answered him, do not be perturbed. Your shoes do not fit because you receive good tidings. The joy of hearing good news makes a person's body swell.
He says, you heard the good news, you get a little fatter automatically. You get fat from naches. Yeah, life is good. People get a little comfortable.
As it is written, good tidings fatten the bones. So what is your remedy?
The joy,
Good tidings fatten the bones. So what is
go
his
ahead.
remedy? Let a man whom you dislike come and pass in front of you. This will cause the swelling to subside. It is written, a broken spirit dries the bones.
He told them the cure for this problem is to bring somebody that you really don't like, who makes you nervous, and will take away the whole joy. The moment take away the whole joy, that will be, you'll be able to put on your shoes. That's what they did. Finish it?
When your high spirits are broken.
Okay, go ahead.
When your high spirits are broken by seeing this person, your feet will return to the normal size.
You'll shrink.
Vespasian did this, and his shoes went on.
Okay. Vespasian did it, and it worked. He saw another thing. The guy knows what he's talking about. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai is smart on every level. He told them, you want to continue?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh. You want to continue?
Vespasian?
Yeah.
Vespasian did this, and his shoe went on. Vespasian then said to Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, and since you are so wise, why did you not come to me until today?
He told them, if you are so wise, we were you until now. That he told them. Go ahead, continue.
Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said to Vespasian, and did I not answer you this question before? Vespasian said to him, I also answered you. Vespasian said to him, I'm going back to Rome, and I will send another man to take my place. So ask me now for something I can give you.
Okay. Vespasian told them, now at the time the king, I'm going back to Rome. And I will send another officer, another general to destroy Jerusalem. Like, we're not changing our mind. Then because he was so impressed with him, he was the first one to tell him that he's the king. And he was so impressed. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, can you imagine the leader of the Jewish people, of the whole Jewish leader in time of the destruction of the temple, was the things that are written about them are unbelievable. He says, ask me something. No, what would you? You're standing in front of Vespasian. He's now the king of Rome, the king of the world, the superpower. And he tells you, Rabbi, whatever you go ahead, ask me something. I liked you, whatever you want. What do you want? Okay, let's see what happened. Want to continue?
So ask me.
Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said to him, give me the town of Yavna and sages,
Yes.
family of Rabbi Gamliel,
Yes.
and doctors to cure our Sadak.
Okay, yeah, I'll explain what is going on. He said, give me a city where all the rabbis can run away and learn Torah. We are not about to fight the Romans, we just want to continue to learn Torah. In the city of Yavne. City of Yavne at that time started already to have some type of yeshiva. Says, we'll go to Yavne, do whatever you want, just let us live. Let us to continue Judaism without a temple. Judaism, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said, is based on the Torah. We can take the Torah anywhere. You know, the Ark of the Covenant had 2 poles, and the poles were not allowed to ever be removed. Why? Because the message was, anytime we can pick up the Ark and go, wherever we want. The message is, with a temple, we don't have a temple. The temple can be only in Jerusalem. We cannot build another temple in Yavne or in Solonai or in Florida. The temple has to be at the Temple Mount. But he can learn Torah anywhere in the world. He says, give me Yavne and the scholars. Number 1. Anybody who escapes Jerusalem, don't haunt them, don't kill them. Let them live. Number 2, he tells them, save the family of Rabbi Gamliel. Rabbi Gamliel was the leader of the Jewish people, that they came from the house of Hillel. Hillel the older, ended up to be 15 generations of his children and children's children. They were the continuation of the leadership of the Jewish people. Why Hillel's family? Because they were descendants of King David. And in Judaism, it's written that we want the leaders of the Jewish people, not only the kings, but even leaders should be from the house of David. That the exiles in Babylon, for many years, were from the family of David. That he asked them, please don't kill the house of Rabbi Gamliel. Even that, according to his history, his father, Rabbi Gamliel's father, Shimon ben Gamliel, he was one of the 10 martyrs that they were killed by the Romans. That he says, don't kill the son. Save them. And number 3 was Rabbi Tzodek. Give me doctors to cure Rabbi Tzodek. As you're going to learn soon what happened with Rabbi Tzodek, Rabbi Tzodek was fasting for 40 years. 40 years that Jerusalem will not be destroyed. And we learned before he was sick, and then he said, give me doctors for them. That's are the 3 things that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai asked from Vespasian when he asked him, what do you want? Okay, now about this alone, there is also discussion. I mean, nothing is going like this. Okay, to continue. The Gemara, in top of the page.
The Gemara comments on Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai request. Rav Yosef, or as some say Rav Akiva, recited the following verse about Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. He turns wise men backwards and makes their thinking foolish. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai should have said to Vespasian, leave them in this time, that is, he should have beseeched Vespasian to spare Jerusalem.
Rabbi Akiva sits later and he says, if Vespasian tells them, you can ask me one thing, you should say, give us another chance. Leave Jerusalem alone. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And the Gemara discuss it. Why not? The Gemara explains by Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai did not. Why Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai did not? Go ahead.
Request the salvation of Jerusalem. But Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai thought that Vespasian might not fulfill so great a request, and then there will be not even a small measure of salvation. Therefore, he requested smaller favors, which Vespasian would be more likely to grant.
He says, yeah, it's a big chokhmah to ask for Jerusalem. And then, if he says no, you get nothing. And it makes sense from Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai's point of view, because he became king because he's about to destroy Jerusalem, because he's successful in this war. And what are you going to tell him? You're going to... Then, you remember we learned a while ago about Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, that before he died, he was crying. And his disciples asked him, why are you crying? And he says, I don't know which way I'm going. To heaven or to the opposite? Then the question is, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, the leader of the Jewish people, didn't know where he was going. There's things that are written about him. He lived to be 120 years old. He never happened that somebody should say hello to him first. He was always the first one to say hello to every human being. He knew everything. He did everything. It's the least is what was he was thinking? He's going to be punished. And some commentaries say he never knew if he did the right thing. That weighed on his conscience until the moment he died. Maybe I should ask Jerusalem. Maybe I would save the city. But that's why he said he cried before he died. But this is Rabbi Akiva saying that it was the mistake. Rabbi Akiva was not different. Rabbi Akiva was not a guy of peace with the Romans. Rabbi Akiva led the revolution against the Roman 50 years later, the Bar Kokhba revolution. He was in one way of thinking. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was another way of thinking. He tried to get what he can, and that's what he asked. Okay, continue. One of the requests made by Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai.
One request made by Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was for doctors to cure Rabbi Tzadok. The Gemara relates that Rabbi Tzadok was cured. The doctors who cured Rabbi Tzadok, what was the treatment they administered to him? The first day they fed him water in which bran had been soaked. The next day they fed him water in which a mixture of coarse bran and flour had been soaked. The next day they fed him water in which some flour was mixed. They gradually increased the thickness of the liquid until bit by bit his intestines widened.
They cured him little by little. They gave him something stronger, something thicker, until he was able to start to eat again. 4 years every day to fast. Shabbos he didn't fast because Shabbos you're not allowed to fast. But during the week he was fasting every day probably. Then that was a big miracle. Okay, the Gemara returns to the central narrative.
Vespasian went to Rome, and he sent Titus to take charge of the military campaign against Jerusalem.
Titus, the famous Titus who destroys Jerusalem. That's how he showed up. Vespasian sent this guy, this tzaddik, to do the job.
In this connection, Scripture states, "And he shall say, where is their God, the rock in which they sought refuge?" This is a reference to the evil Titus, who profaned and blasphemed the one above.
Titus said, where is God? He walked into the temple, he did whatever he wanted. You say your God protects you? We don't hear from him. What he did, look what the Talmud writes, what he did.
He seized a harlot in his hand and entered the chamber of the Holy of Holies. He spread out a Torah scroll and committed a sin upon it.
Couldn't be any better than that. In the Holy of Holies, on Torah, everything. And then what he did?
And he took a sword and slashed the
Parochet. The parochet is the curtain that covers up the Holy of Holies. He took a sword and he stuck it into the parochet. Look what happened.
A miracle occurred, and blood was seen bubbling out of the parochet. Titus thought that he had killed himself.
No, I'll stop right here. He made a hole in the parochet and blood started to come out. God made a miracle for Titus. Can you imagine? And what Titus thought? He killed him. not himself. That's a nice way to say about our God. Titus thought, look, there is blood coming out. I killed God. God forbid. He not even know how to say such a thing. That's why they write himself. As it is stated,
Your God's enemies roared in the midst of your meeting place. They established their signs as true signs. Titus interpreted the bleeding as a sign that he had killed God. The sages comment on God's restraint in the face of Titus's unconscionable behavior.
then the question is, why God did it? Why was God restraining himself and letting Titus do whatever he wants in the temple? Strength is not only when you can punch somebody in the nose. True strength is when you restrain yourself and allow, because you have a bigger agenda, allow your enemy running around and do whatever he wants.
Is a bold print different than the regular print?
The bold print is the Talmud itself, and the regular print is the commentaries to the Talmud. Okay. Please. Abba Hanan says,
Abba Hanan says, Scripture states, who is like you, O strong one, God? This is a reference to God's restrained posture at the time, as follows. Who is like you, strong and firm? For you hear the insult and blasphemy of that evil man, and yet you remain silent.
He says, who is like you, God, that can hear the blasphemy of a human being, tolerate it, and say nothing? And let people think that God is not in control. That's called tzimtzum. God removes himself and covers himself behind big covers, thick curtains. And people think that there is no God, that everybody can do whatever he wants. Where is God? Look, all the bad people are successful, all the good people suffer. That's a part of the challenge, that we have to find God, and on the face of the story, the world, and what revealed is that the bad guys are successful. If there is God, how could be a Holocaust? Then God covers himself up and let the world think, that the bad guys think that they can run the show. Rabbi Shmuel brings another verse that we all know. Go ahead.
In the academy of our
Rabbi Ishmael,
it was taught, Scripture states, who is like you among the mighty one, Hashem? This is homiletically interpreted to mean, who is like you among the mute ones? In the face of Titus's blasphemy, you remain silent.
Okay, we know the song we say on Friday nights, and every night is Mi Chamocha Ba'elim Adoshem, right? That you took the word Ba'elim means God, and in Hebrew, miyut means ilmim. It's almost the same lettering. Just add another mem. That it says Mi Chamocha Ba'elim Ba'ilmim. How great are you as a mute God, that you allow Titus to run around in the Holy of Holies and do the place that if a Jew walks in and he doesn't deserve to be there, a high priest on Yom Kippur who is not holy enough dies inside. In this place, Titus walks in and can do whatever he wants, and he doesn't die. Actually, he gets blood out of the parochet. That means God restrains himself and allows, when he is not happy with the Jewish people, he allows the enemies running around and think that they are running the show. But they only think that they are running the show. They are not running the show. The narrative is resumed.
What did Titus do next? He took the parochas and formed it into the shape of a wine carrier. Then he brought all the utensils of the temple and put them in it. He put them on a ship, intending to go and be praised for his triumph in his city. As it is said,
he took all the utensils from the temple, the menorah, with the other utensils, and he took them to Rome to show off. And look what I did. That's when you go on the Arch of Titus in Rome until today. You see the depiction of the picture. Our Jewish slaves are carrying the menorah, and it's written Judah Capota, Jewish captives, on the Arch of Titus. There was a time in Rome when they wanted to humiliate Jews. They forced them to go in front of this arch. Today it's tourist attraction. Every Jew goes and takes a picture next to it, but really it doesn't. It brings us the story of the destruction of Jerusalem, not of the building of Jerusalem. And the menorah, an arch of Titus, is like a half a circle. That's a picture of the menorah. But the real way how it was in the temple, it was like branches. It was like what it's called. It was
rounded.
No, it's not
It
rounded.
was straight.
Right, there were straight lines.
Straight lines.
Oh, but they on the Titus is.
And that's why I said, and the Titus is round, but the real way it was straight lines. Titus got a menorah, but not the real menorah. Titus, the Jewish people knew that the temple is going to be destroyed, and they were smarter than that. They hid the real menorah, and they put another menorah there, and that's the menorah that Titus got. Then therefore, what you see on the Arch of Titus is not the real menorah that was in the temple. In any case, we are reading the story about Titus on the boat, taking all the vessels of the temple to Rome. What happened?
As it is said, yet they came to destroy the temple. Then I saw wicked men who deserved to be buried, and then departed from that holy place.
You know what? We'll skip this piece because you will not. It's not. Let's skip the page. Turn the page. We'll go to the Gemara returns to the narrative.
The Gemara returns to the narrative. A hurricane at sea threatened to drown Titus. He said, "It seems to me that the power of the God of the Jews is only in water."
It was in this water, and it started to be not comfortable. He says, "Oh, the God of the Jews has only power in the water." How we know he has only power in the water? Look what he said.
When Pharaoh came against the Jews, he drowned him in the waters of the Reed Sea.
Right? That's how all the Egypt died, was drowned in the water. Go ahead.
When Sisera came against the Jews, he drowned his army in the waters of Nahal Kishon.
What happened with Sisera? Mr. Todd?
Well, he got killed by Yael.
By Yael. He himself got killed by Yael, but Sisera came with a big army to destroy the Jewish people. And they came to a certain place in Israel, and it was a small river, but somehow God made it that the river got overflowed, and he just swept the whole army kind of into the water. They had to run away. They were stuck in the mud. Nothing was left from them. Sisera himself was killed by a woman, Yael. That's how Yael became a Jewish name. It's in the Bible. It's all the different story. He says the God of the Jews is only powerful in the water. What happened? Go ahead, continue. I'm sorry.
So now, too, he threatens to drown me in the waters of the Mediterranean Sea. If he is truly powerful, let him come up on dry land and wage war with me there.
Go ahead. He said, if looks like God is only strong in the water, let him come to dry land. Let's see if he's stronger than me.
A heavenly voice emanated and said to Titus, "O evil man, the son of an evil man, a descendant of the evil Asa, I have a puny creature in my world, and it is called a gnat."
A little thing will give you tzores. You think you're so big and you're so strong? A little gnat is going to give you tzores, enough for everything.
It turned out to be not so small after a while.
Okay.
Parenthetically, the Gemara interjects. Why did God call it a puny creature? Because it had an entrance through which food is received, but it does not have an outlet through which waste is excreted.
You know, in the Hasidic terminology, when somebody only takes and doesn't give, we call him a net. In life, it's a learning and giving. You have to take and give, and take and give. If not, you're taking in and don't give anything out. What is this? It doesn't work like this. Every human being is to contribute to the world, not just to take, but to be a giver, more than to be a taker. Okay, we go back to the story. The heavenly voice continued.
Right. The heavenly voice continues. Go up on dry land and fight this puny creature. When Titus ascended to the dry land, the gnat came and entered his nose. It picked at his brain for 7 years. One day, Titus was passing the doorway of a smithy, and when the gnat heard the sound of the smith's hammer, it fell silent. Titus said, "There is a remedy for me. And every day they brought me another smith, and they banged with the hammers in the presence of Titus.
And this was quieting down the gnat in his head. It didn't bother him. Okay. To a Gentile,
To a Gentile smith he gave 4 zuz, but to a
is
Jewish...
to pay him for the job. To a non-Jewish smith man, is to pay him for the job.
That's a good idea.
But to a Jewish smith, he said,
For you it is enough that you witness the suffering of your enemy.
the joy of your suffering your enemy is good enough, I don't have to pay you for it.
That's right.
He did this for 30 days, but from then on, having grown accustomed to the sound of the hammering, the gnat became accustomed to it.
They worked for 30 days and didn't work anymore. That's it. Even the gnat got used to the noise, finished. He wasn't too impressed with the noise.
It was taught in the Baraisa. Rabbi Pinchas ben Aruva said, I was among the nobles of Rome. When Titus died, they split his head open, and they found a gnat inside it that was like a swallow weighing 2 selas. Atana brought in Baraisa, the gnat was like a 1-year-old pigeon weighing 2 litras. Abias said, we hold a tradition that its mouth was of copper and its nails were of iron.
Basically, it was big. It was exactly how big. I didn't see it.
The narrative was resumed. When Titus was dying, he told those present, burn that man himself, and scatter his ashes over 7 seas, so that the God of the Jews will not find him and stand him in the judgment.
He says he wants, that man means himself. When he dies, to take his ashes and to spread it all over. By the way, that's a Titus thing to do, not a Jewish thing to do. Go ahead. The Gemara cites a related incident. This is now comes something unbelievable.
The Gemara cites a related incident. Onkelos, who was the son
You
of...
heard about Onkelos? There is in every Bible, there is a translation to Aramaic from Onkelos. Onkelos was a convert who translated the whole Bible. When you translate something, you really give a commentary, if you like it or not. You have to understand what it's written and give a commentary. He was guided by Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua, the 2 greatest scholars in his times, and he translated the whole Bible. That Onkelos is a name that every Jewish child knows, if he learns the Chumash. Yeah, obviously. In any case, Onkelos was the son of Clonicus. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
And the son of Titus' sister.
Basically, Onkelos was Titus' nephew.
And he wanted to convert to Judaism. He went and raised the spirit of Titus through necromancy. Onkelos asked him, who is prominent in the world?
He made like a seance.
Titus answered him, in the world to come. Titus answered him, Israel.
He asked him, there, upstairs, who is really prominent? Who is important? He told them, Israel, the Jews. Okay.
Onkelos asked him, should I join them? Convert to Judaism? Titus answered him, their laws are numerous and you will not be able to fulfill them. Go and attack them.
He says it's impossible. Don't join them. Don't convert. They have so many mitzvahs you can never hear the end of it. You have to do this, you cannot do this. Instead, what he suggested them,
go and attack them in that world, the world of the living, and you will become a leader. For it is written, Israel's enemies have become leaders, etc. From this verse it is derived that whoever persecutes Israel becomes a leader.
That if you fight the Jews, somehow for a short period of time, you become a big macher. And he says, here is the advice that Titus gave him. Go and fight them, give them tzoros. You'll become a big macher.
Onkelos asked Titus, what is that man your punishment?
What is the punishment of a guy like you who gets tzoros to the Jewish people?
Titus answered him, he is punished by the very fate that he set for himself. Every day his ashes are gathered and he is judged. Then he is burned and his ashes are scattered over 7 seas.
Basically, what a person is judging for himself, that's what he gets. It says you are spreading the ashes. He said he asked that his ashes should be spread for 7 seas. He said that's what is happening to me every day spiritually. They burn him again and they spread his ashes again and again and again every day. That was the punishment for Titus in heaven for destroying the temple, for doing so to the Jewish people.
So basically, he's in hell.
One way or another, yeah, whatever it means. Then Onkelos went, continue.
Archelaus went and raised the spirit of Bilam through necromancy.
Oh, what's necromancy?
It's a sort of a sorcery of the dead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bilam, we learned about Bilam 2 weeks ago. Bilam wanted to curse the Jewish people, and is in the Bible, and he ended up to give the nicest blessing to the Jewish people. But he went to curse the Jewish people, and that was the end of him. The moment he wanted to curse the Jewish people, after the blessing that he gave, he lost his prophecy, and a short time later he was killed, and that was that. Then he went, Onkelos wanted to know what Bilam has to say. Okay.
Archelaus asked him, who is prominent in the world to come? Bilam asked
The same question, who is above, up there, who is the most important one?
Israel. Archelaus asked him, should I join them, convert to Judaism? Bilam answered him, seek neither their peace nor their benefit all the days.
Bilam told them, don't join them. Bilam already didn't tell them, go fight them. Bilam was one step lower. He told them, don't seek seek neither their peace nor their benefits. Don't be nice to them. But don't try to be a part of them.
Archelaus asked him, what is that man's your punishment? Bilam answered, I am punished in boiling semen.
That's strange. Why is this? Because what does Bilam's advise to get the Jewish people in trouble? He sent out the Moabite girls. They will seduce the Jewish boys to worship idol. It was an idol, it's called Baal Peor. And when God sees the Jewish people worshiping idol, he gets very upset with the Jews, and will be a plague. And it actually worked. And 24,000 men died. Then because he did it in this technique, that's why he suffers from the same technique. Basically, the concept in Judaism, it's called midah keneged midah, measure for measure. And because he did it in this way, therefore he got it the same way. Then Onkelos,
Onkelos then went and raised the sinners of Israel through necromancy. Onkelos asked him, who is prominent in the world to come? He answered Onkelos, Israel.
He said, the Talmud says, he went and he asked a sinner from Israel, right?
It's Jesus.
Some say Jesus anyway.
You know the story.
Yeah.
And he told them, what should we do? Who is the most important one in heaven? He told them Israel. Then Onkelos asked them, go ahead, I'm sorry. Should I join them?
Should I join them and convert to Judaism? He answered Onkelos, seek their benefit, do not seek their harm. Whoever touches them is like one who touches the pupil of his eye. Whoever harms the Jewish people harms himself.
He told them like this. He answered them, don't hurt the Jewish people. Anybody could, that's a quote from the prophet Zechariah in the second temple, the beginning of the second temple. Anogea ba'em kenogea bebavat eino. Anybody who touches the Jew touches the pupil of the eye of God. Don't mess around with the Jewish people. Basically, look for the good, do not look to harm them. Onkelos asked them,
what is that man's, your punishment? He answered Onkelos, I am punished in boiling feces. This accords with that which Master said. Whoever mocks the words of the sages is punished in boiling feces.
Okay. What was the problem from the heretics in the second temple? Why they left Judaism? They didn't want to believe in the old tradition, like the Sadducees and other groups. He says he mocked the commentaries of the Talmud, the commentators of the Bible. He wanted only to take what the Bible says straight. And he says that's a punishment for somebody who is doing these things. Now we have three people. We have Titus, heard his opinion. Titus says, go give them to us. Bilam, who was a gentle prophet, says, don't help them. Don't do anything good for them. And there is a Jewish boy who went astray, tells them what? Cleave to the Jewish people, help the Jews, because anybody who hurts them is like touching the people of the eye of God. Basically encourage them to join Judaism. Now the Gemara comments on this thing.
The Gemara comments on the difference between the response given by Bilam and the response given by the sinners of Israel. Come see what a difference there is between the sinners of Israel and the prophets of the idol-worshipping nations of the world. The sinners of Israel advised Onkelos to seek the benefit of the Jews, whereas Bilam, who was a prophet of the nations of the world, advised Onkelos not to seek their benefit.
Look, the Talmud concludes and says, look what is a Jewish child all about. Bilam, a prophet, according to some opinion, he was as great as Moses. A prophet means somebody who speaks to God. Comes after life, what he says, don't do him any favors to the Jews. A Jewish boy went astray from Judaism, who denied Judaism. In the end of the day, what is he advising to Onkelos? Join them, help them. After all, he comes from is one of us, so to speak. He's a part of the Jewish people. He has it. He has it in his soul, in his genes, whatever you want, how you want to describe it. But it's the story wants to point out the difference. Now the Gemara returns to the.
Gemara has related the chain of events triggered, but the incident concerning Kamsa and Bar Kamsa culminated in the destruction of the temple.
Right, we started the whole story with last week with Kamsa and Bar Kamsa. That a guy was inviting his friend Kamsa, and by mistake he invited his enemy Bar Kamsa, and he didn't want to allow his enemy be a minute in this party. He threw him out and embarrassed him in public. Bar Kamsa got angry, went and he reported against the Jews to the government, and all of this triggered the whole destruction of the temple. Now we're coming back to the story. Go ahead, the Gemara concludes.
The Gemara concludes its account on this incident and its aftermath with the following observation. It was taught in the Baraisa, Rabbi Eliezer said, "Come and see how great is the power of shame. For the Holy One, blessed is he, assisted Bar Kamsa in his plot to take revenge for the shame to which he had been subjected. And he destroyed his temple and he burned his sanctuary."
What is he saying here? He said, because we embarrassed Bar Kamsa in one party, God helped Bar Kamsa to accomplish his goal. But he helped him more than even he planned to help him, to do it himself. The whole temple was destroyed because Bar Kamsa was embarrassed in public. That shows how careful we have to be. God forbid embarrassing another person. And the time we have a law in the Torah that speaks about, that teaches this lesson. There is a law that says when you build an altar in the temple, you cannot build steps to the altar. You have to build a ramp. Why a ramp, not steps? But the Torah says something very interesting. In the olden days, people didn't wear pants. They used to wear dresses. Everybody was wearing like wrap things. That when you go on steps, your inner part are being exposed. And you're insulting the steps. Right? And because you might insult the steps, therefore you shouldn't, when you go up to the altar to offer a sacrifice, you think about God, you have to be even sensitive to the steps. Right there, the Talmud, Rashi, right after they explain the text itself, in the end of Parshat Yitro, I think it's in the book of Exodus. Right by the end of this Talmud says, makes a lesson from it. And what if a stone that doesn't hear and doesn't see and doesn't have feelings, the Torah teaches us not to insult it. Your friend who has feelings and is embarrassed and he gets red, or he loses his blood in his face, or he's getting too red, how much more we have to be careful with this, to be sensitive with them, not to embarrass them. And there is traditions that we do every week that is based on this. For example, every Friday night we make Kiddush, right? How we do the Kiddush? We have 2 challahs on the table, right? We cover the challahs with the challah cover. And we make Kiddush. And after Kiddush, we wash them for the challah, then we uncover the challah and we cut the bread. Why we cover the challah?
So not to embarrass it.
How you embarrass them?
Because you're doing the wine blessing first.
You're not cutting, you're not using
You can make Kiddush on 2 things. If you look in every Siddur, next to the Borei Pei HaGefen on one side, it's written, Amotzi Lechem Min Haaretz. You can make Kiddush on bread and wine. If you don't have wine, you can make Kiddush on bread. If you have no wine, you can make Kiddush on bread. Here, we choose to make Kiddush on wine over bread. Then because we choose to make Kiddush, if the bread is open and I choose to make Kiddush on wine, I insult the bread. Then you cover the bread, and then you make it Kiddush. Then you go, when you bring the wine, you make Kiddush wine. So to speak, we don't see the bread. There is a tradition that we go to a cemetery. I wear tzitzis outside of my pants. When I'll go to a cemetery, I'll tuck them into my pants. Why? You cannot, for example, you cannot put on film in a cemetery. You cannot have a minyan, a service in a cemetery. Because people who died, dead people, are not obligated with mitzvot. You're only obligated with mitzvot as long as you're alive. People say, oh, I wish I wouldn't have to do so much. There is a way to make you free from mitzvahs, boy. I'm not sure you want it. You know, there is a story about a man who didn't want to give a get to his wife. He didn't want to divorce her. The rabbi sent him a message, you know, there is 2 ways how a wife could become relieved from your husband. Or by a divorce, or there is another way, if he's dead. Then you choose quick what you want. Right away, he gave the divorce. Then a person who is the dead people in the cemetery are not obligated to mitzvah. That when I come in and I do a mitzvah, I kind of insult them that they cannot do it. But they're dead. That's how much we have to be sensitive. Another thing about Friday night. You know, everybody knows the song Shalom Aleichem. Shalom, what is the song all about? Shalom Aleichem is a song that says about welcome angels. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Ashalom, the angels of peace, ministering angels. Then we say to them, Shalom Aleichem, welcome angels. Then we say, Boachem LeShalom, thank you for coming. Then we say, give me a blessing, Baruchuni LeShalom, give me a blessing. Then we say, Tzatchem LeShalom, goodbye angels. The question is, if angels coming to your house, why are you sending him away so fast? To have a few angels around the table is not a bad idea altogether. The answer is, because angels cannot eat, and we are about to start a meal, then it's not respectful to have angels standing and looking at us while we're eating and they cannot eat. What is all of this? All of this is to teach a person sensitivity. And the lesson is, if you have to be sensitive to the stones, and sensitive to the dead, and sensitive to the bread, and sensitive to angels, how much more I have to be sensitive to my friend? And we see it in this story. Because of one guy, Bar Kamsa. All Jerusalem was destroyed because Jerusalem was the great leaders of the city was sitting in the party, and they saw Bar Kamsa is being insulted, and nobody stood up to say this is unacceptable. Everybody said, that's not my place, it's not my thing, I don't have to do it. That's the problem with this behavior. This is one of the 3 stories that the Talmud is bringing that led to the destruction of this temple. Then we learn another 2 stories. One story of why was the destruction of the place that's called Ar HaMelech, a city, and then there is a 3rd story who leads to the destruction of Beitar. Why Beitar? Beitar was a big city that 50 years later led the revolution against the Romans, and that was destroyed. But basically, the Talmud points out how one little event can get out of hand and can destroy the whole world if you don't control it in the right time. At this point, we will not start another story because we want to have it for the next class. We'll continue next week.